Yeah, I'd open with thanking the fans again for Saturday. What a great atmosphere. I enjoyed being back in Sanford and certainly enjoyed getting to be around Chris Hatcher and his program and good friends. Now it's on to South Carolina for us, an SEC East rival that we get to play each and every year. Going to an extremely tough environment to play in with a lot of guys that haven't played in any kind of environment like that. You know, the Mercedes game was probably 70–80% Georgia fans, so it'll be our first chance to play on the road, first chance to play SEC opponent, and looking forward to an opportunity to play these guys.
Raise your hand, please.
Kirby, just a few housekeeping notes. Anything on AD? Any update? Do you think he'll be able to practice today? And then also didn't see William Poole on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. AD will not be able to practice today. We're hopeful that he's able to make it. Ron's optimistic, but you know how that goes. It's more about where he goes and where he's at. And we'll see on Poole. Right now, he just wasn't in the lineup to play.
Just curious, Coach, having got to review the tape from this past weekend and knowing what you're facing in South Carolina, their defensive front, and success Arkansas had running. How did you feel about your run game retrospectively this past week, and how much does it need to improve this week?
Well, we got to improve everywhere. Start with every unit. You know, it's a hard measuring stick when you start talking about comparing it to Sanford. No offense to their team or their program, it's just hard to evaluate. So we got to improve in every facet. That includes throwing the ball, that includes running the ball, includes defensively stopping the run and rushing the passer. So that's always going to be the case. I thought we did run the ball well Saturday, you know, but again, it's a little different front, a little different coverage in terms of the way they played. But when you're getting 4 or 5 yards a rush, you know, it's hard to complain about that. You got to do it at a higher level against a better opponent.
Yeah, Kirby, kind of following up on the run game in the red zone, how much do you kind of view the run game as the key to getting things right in the red zone, being able to run the ball, spaces condensed, and everything like that?
I think you got to have a run game to win tight ball games. You know, to be a good physical team. And there's not a lack of confidence in our run game for me. I think people look at statistics and that's all they look at. I look at it as what have we asked our guys to do. And there's a lot of things, no offense, that you guys don't understand about football. You know, when you talk about passing and yardage, I would say probably 30 to 40% of the plays you're calling a pass or yardage is a run play, and they can be very successful run plays. The question is, are they more successful as a run play, or are they more successful when we decide to throw the ball out of that run play? So the evaluation for us is those plays are running plays, and a lot of times we put them in rushing yardage because they're actually replacing rushing yardage. I know that's really complicated, but that's the way we look at it. So we're not evaluating it just alone how many times we rush the ball.
Kirby, that's one of those you're talking like what they call the long handoff, a high percentage passes when you're talking about substituting for runs. I wanted to ask about Spencer Rattler though, and I'm sure you saw the film. Some of those deep balls he threw. I mean, how much alert does your secondary need to be on for him and that South Carolina receiving corps?
Well, they got a great receiving corps. They got really good wideouts, fast wideouts. Guys we struggled with last year. They got a quarterback who's got an elite ability to throw the deep ball. He can throw the ball over 70 yards, stretch the field, and he's an athlete. So when you start talking about, you know, like we played against Bo, we know Bo can throw the ball, Bo can scramble. He's a guy that can move around. You got to be disciplined. You're going to have probably 5 to 6 snaps a game when you've got to use scramble rules. You got to plaster, take shots down the field. You got to win 50-50 balls. That doesn't change based on who we play. I mean, everybody we play, especially in the SEC, is going to be challenging us down the field, and you got to be able to win those one-on-one matchups. They've got really talented guys to do that with.
Through the first 2 games, what has been your assessment of Kendall Milton, especially after the hamstring injury he dealt with in preseason, how he's played so far?
Kendall's done a great job. He did what he did in the spring. He's run the ball with toughness. He's very smart in terms of his pickup. He's improved as a pass receiver out of the backfield. He's done everything we've asked him to do to this point. He's hard to tackle. He's physical.
Kirby, on the passing game, I know explosive plays are not defined as like 40 or 50 yards, but you guys are excelling at the intermediate passing game. Is that ideal? Is it by design? And can you think you all can sustain that?
Can we sustain it? I think it's probably dictated more by what the defense does and what the defense gives us. You know, I'd like to think we can sustain it when it comes to accuracy, completion percentage, decision making. A lot of those plays, there's multiple people that the ball can be thrown to. It boils down to, did we read the coverage right? Did we take what the defense gives us? Did we hand it when we should hand it? Did we throw it when we should throw it? Did we? A lot of things involved in that. You know, I would certainly think we can maintain that, but it's going to take staying healthy. It's going to take protecting the quarterback. It's going to take protecting the football. But that's the expectation.
Yeah, Kirby, you mentioned Bo when talking about Spencer Rattler. Does facing a guy like Bo so recently help at all when you're preparing for a guy like Rattler, or is it, is the page kind of completely turned to like two different guys?
I think it helps anytime you face an athletic quarterback. We face one every day, so it's like one of those deals that you get better the more you face a guy that has athleticism. Spencer's a little different than Bo. I mean, he's a really good athlete. He's got great arm strength. He's got a lot of playing experience. But each guy is different because their offenses are different.
Kirby, the last time you guys played in South Carolina, it was a COVID year, so basically nobody on this team has played in that bonkers environment. Is it silly to say or think that Stetson, being a fan so far back and knowing that environment, is that an asset for a team that's going into, like I said, a really crazy place to play?
The only asset to going into an environment like this is experience, and we've probably got 20 or 30 guys that have experience going into Auburn, Tennessee, places similar in terms of fan experience. So we've got some guys that can draw on experience. We've got some guys that'll lean on those guys because they'll be new. Anytime you go on the road for the first time, guys have to get comfortable with that. We had that a little bit in Atlanta in terms of not being on our own field, but it certainly wasn't the same kind of environment we're going into this time. And we'll have some guys that are young guys that have to lean on those older players.
Kirby, how would you describe your offensive identity, and how has that evolved over the years that you've been here?
It's evolved based on the players, and that'll never change, right? So when the strength of our team is the backs, then we feature the backs. The strength of the team is the tight ends. You try to feature the tight end. Strength of the team's quarterback, O-line. Right now the strength of this team is probably its depth up front, experience at quarterback, and distribution of the ball across the entire offense to make you defend 53 yards. So the evolution is based on what players you have.
You guys are ranked #1 in the AP poll, and talking with Cedric, it was sort of met with a shrug. What does it say about your program where you've gotten to that point and it's not that big of a deal to be the #1 team in the country?
It's never a big deal. It only matters at the end of the year. I don't know that we've spent many weeks outside the top 10, and it never mattered whether we were inside the top 10 or outside the top 10. It just is irrelevant. I mean, it's a lot more worried about how we execute a combo block than I am worried about what we're ranked. And hopefully the kids are the same way.
Hey Coach, just wanted to ask about Tyron Ingram-Dawkins. Given that he is from South Carolina, you said when Channing Tindall went to play, you signed him as a captain because you understood how much that game meant to him. This is Tyron's homecoming game. I was wondering if you've been seeing him approach the game differently in practice and such.
I hadn't seen him yet. So, I mean, he approached it the right way last week, but literally we have not seen the guys yet. I know he'll be excited. He's going back to play in South Carolina. He is from there. He's not going to be a captain this week, but Ty does a great job for us, and we'll see how he approaches the game as we start practice.
Coach, you just mentioned that one of the strengths of your team is your depth up front. What have you seen from rotation guys like Amarius Mims and Willock? And when it comes down to its more marquee matchups, how many guys would you like to rotate up front?
Well, it depends on how guys practice. You'd like to think guys separate themselves in games, but I get a better evaluation of those guys Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday than I probably did Saturday. And we'll continue to evaluate it and see who plays well and who competes. And we get to go against a really good team for 3 days in practice before we go against another really good team. So we'll figure it out.
Over the years, I feel like you guys have been very intentional about having a mantra that the players can latch onto. This year, we've heard so much of "we won't be hunted." We've heard "nobody cares." Where did those come from, and how do you feel like they help the team kind of focus?
They come from the players. The messaging comes from them, and you create an identity by what you believe in. And we've had a pretty good identity around here for a long time about being really physical. And the message might be tweaked game to game, year to year, but we hope the result and the process is the same, because we don't really change the approach based on who we play, based on scoreboard, based on anything. So the focus is on us, and that doesn't change.
Kirby, what stood out when you hired Shane to the staff, and what really stands out to you about the job they've done over there at South Carolina so far?
When we hired Shane, I'd known him for a long time. He was interested in coming, and thought it'd be a great opportunity to jump into the SEC and be part of our program, and he did. And he's created a lot of energy through his program, through enthusiasm, staff. They got an excellent staff at South Carolina, and just creating an environment of competition for their program to compete at a high level, which South Carolina's always historically played Georgia, really hard, tight. It's usually the first SEC game most years. They recruit our state hard. We recruit their state hard. So it's a lot of things to that.
Kirby, obviously Warren McClendon's been on the field for 3 years, so he's a tremendous asset. How has he grown, particularly in the leadership in this year in particular?
I think he's more vocal this year than he has been in the past. Last year, he's naturally a quiet guy. Last year, probably didn't have as much to say with Jamari and Schaefer around. This year, he would, he and Cedric together would be considered leaders. I throw Broderick and Warren Erickson in that boat too. But Warren McClendon is like just a very well-respected vet, and players respect him because his durability has been incredible. His toughness is remarkable in terms of doesn't miss practice, and just works really hard. So he's a guy that the players look up to and listen to.
South Carolina entered the SEC a few years before you came to Georgia. Do you have any specific memories against the Gamecocks and games you played against them?
Not really. We kind of went back and forth. I don't know. We probably split with them while I was a player. That it would seem like we won at home and lost there a couple times, and had some really good football players. Played against Deuce Staley, and some of those guys were just unbelievable athletes, and don't remember much about it.
Coach, Trayvon Walker made some pretty incredible plays yesterday. What was your reaction when you saw those plays, and have you been able to speak with him since then?
No, I hadn't spoke to him, but I did see the little clip, or whatever they call it, the little snippets of the highlights, and pretty incredible. It's unique for a guy that size and speed to be able to do some of the things he does. But over the last 3 years here, we saw those. When you see practice, you see thousands more reps than you see in a game. So we've seen some really freaky events by him, and to have those three in the same game, pretty spectacular.
Kirby, well, you reached out to Sam Pittman this week, seeing how he just faced Shane Bieber, and how often would you as a head coach reach out to the staff of a team that played the team you're about to face?
Probably more as a position coach or a coordinator. That's a very common thing to try to reach out, talk to people, see if there are any nuggets, anything you can learn. They learned maybe in game, maybe how they look on the hoof, pace of play, things like that. I think as coordinators, you like to talk to the other team when you can share ideas and things like that. But as far as Sam and I, we text every so often anyway.
Kirby, I know you do a lot of preparation, but do you allow yourself a little bit of time? I think the majority of these 48 Georgia guys in the NFL you coached or developed, or guys like Tate Crowder that are now budding into stars. And then I guess secondly, not a scoreboard watcher, but when we see a Notre Dame lose to a Marshall or an A&M lose to an Appalachian State, is that something that makes it pretty real for your players in terms of maintaining that standard regardless of an opponent?
On the NFL front, I haven't talked to any of those guys. I try every now and then to shoot a guy a text. when I think about him, I'll be honest, it hits me more when I'm watching our tape, you know, the tape of us playing and one of them's on it. Meaning you go back and watch an opponent from the year before, watch South Carolina game last year, and DK has a pick, and you know, I send a text to him, or you know, watching Sanford, saw Roquan Smith playing Sanford and shoot a text to him, thinking about him from when he was playing. But not necessarily because I don't get to watch NFL games and communicate with those guys. But I mean, as far as the upsets and stuff, guys, that really doesn't, it's part of college football. It can happen to anybody on any given day, and I really try to focus my attention on how we get better. That's all I concern myself with is what are we going to do today at practice that gets us better, because I'm not worried about tomorrow's practice or Saturday's game until I get through today's practice.
Coach, saw that Malachi started this past game, but obviously Dan Jackson's still playing a lot, Chris is playing a lot, and several other safeties kind of in that rotation. Can you just talk about the back end a little bit and how you see that going forward with Malachi obviously needing to get on the field, but having such an experienced guy in Jackson?
Yeah, Dan uniquely does. He doesn't have a ton of experience. He got to play some last year. I don't know that he started any games, but he does. He got to play in our dime package, so he gained some confidence from that. He's got 2 pretty good years of practice under his belt, which usually in our system you get where you're comfortable and you don't require 100% of reps to get ready if you've been in the system 2 years. So Dan's in a position where we feel like he knows what to do, but Dan can still grow and get better as a player. Chris played a lot of football for us. We had the luxury of trying to help Chris take care of his body and have a good year and be productive by putting his reps at 75%. And then Malachi needs all the football he can play. He still hasn't seen everything, done everything. Tremendous talent, and continues to stay level-headed and work really hard. Back there, David Daniels, a guy that I really think has had a good camp. He had some good plays against Oregon. He's shown confidence. He knows our defense. He's playing with more confidence and awareness, and we need him to keep getting better.
When you make a lineup change like that and someone's going to start and someone's not going to end up starting, what are those conversations like with the players? And for the guy that ends up not starting, what do you do to sort of make sure that you are able to keep him engaged, knowing that he's probably still going to need to help you at some point?
Just honest with him. I mean, honesty is the best way to go about it. I mean, it's no different in the NFL. It's no different anywhere. Production. Most of our kids know. I mean, they'll be the first to tell you that we're going to play the best players. And Malachi's earned that right. Dan's not upset about that. He's a team player. He gets it. Dan has a major role in our special teams unit, and he continues to play on defense. So you're one play away at all times. Those conversations are not hard or complicated.
Let's take 2 more questions.
We saw it on Saturday some when AD went down, but when a guy like Dylan can come in and perform in that spot, how important is a young guy like that to come in and take AD's role a little bit?
Yeah, Jackson actually went in and played, and I thought Jackson did a good job in the moment, and Dylan got to play as well. It's hard to play just 2 or 3 wideouts in a game, especially early in the season when the temperature is such, and you're trying to get guys in game condition. So we have a lot of guys that play a wideout. We've got several young players that are really talented, Dylan being one of those. They got to grow up, and the best way to grow up is go play. So we're going to keep getting those guys better and keep giving them more opportunities. They got to be able to play in the moment.
Kirby, can you give us an update on how Arian Smith is looking right now?
Yeah, Arian's coming back. He's been able to do some weight-bearing running. He's been hitting some good speeds. Hopefully he'll be able to get back. We don't know when he's going to be back. It's doubtful he's back this week. But he is back running, and he's not 100%, but excited for what he's been able to do. He's not cutting and breaking. He's on the Ultra G. He's getting better, and you can see it in his eyes. He's getting healthier. Just I got no idea when he's going to